Okay, hey everybody, welcome to She Ventures Out. I'm Kiana Williams, your host, executive coach, and author, and navigator of life's many transitions. And today I am sitting down with Tennille Cooley, who is the founder of Goodness and Grains. Now, Tennille launched Goodness and Grains after leaving a very successful corporate career. So we are going to get into all of that. But also, I want y'all to know that Tennille didn't just start a business. She built a brand that is rooted in wellness, community, and intentionality. And she did it in an industry that she was slightly unfamiliar with. So anybody who is daunted by leaping, this is the conversation you've been waiting for. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Tennille.
Hey, thank you for having me, Q. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
I am excited to have you on here. I should tell our listeners, Tennille and I go way back.
Way
We
back,
we were
at least
babies
20.
early in career.
Yeah, I'm at least 20, right? Well, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's been about 20 years. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, long
yes. I mean,
time.
we don't look it, baby. That means we
No,
started working like at 3 and 4.
because you know what they say, honey, it don't crack.
Not at all.
Mm-mm,
Not at
not
all.
at all. Not at all. Not at all. No.
So I teased it a little bit for our listeners, but talk a little bit about your professional background prior to founding Goodness and Grains, and then talk a little bit about what inspired you to leap.
Yeah, so to clarify a couple things. So yeah, I started Goodness and Grains actually November. The idea manifested November of 2023. And we put it into formation like officially with the paperwork and the government and all that stuff December of 2023, and we kind of hit the ground running January, February of 2024, not too long after we had went to the African American Leadership Academy's first annual alumni retreat.
Yes.
But prior to that, I was at Coca-Cola for 10 and a half years, traveled the world, got to do amazing work and projects. Some products you probably drink on the shelf now. You can see some of the bottles behind me on the shelf. But one of my most infamous projects is the legendary Jack and Coke, which is Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola in a can. Launched that globally, as well as a few other spirits projects that I worked on right before I left. But my background had always been in the CPG space. You know, Kiana, you mentioned earlier, we go back 20 years. Our careers, well, mine started at what is now known as L Brands. So that's the parent company for Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works. Prior to that, I mean, even after that, I did a little stint over at the Target Corporation. I was at SC Johnson. So all your household products that you know, Windex, Blade, Raid, all that stuff, you know, those products. I did a little stint over there before joining in the beverage space with the Coca-Cola company. So I've always been into commercialization, program management, project management. That's kind of been my wheelhouse. It's always been my thing. I love seeing things come to life. I've always been a person about execution, and playing on different stages in different parts of the world, and traveling to do so has been a very fulfilling career, very demanding career, because there were times where I was gone for 3 to 4 weeks at a time, you know, in another country, can't do anything about whatever was happening, you know, back here in the US. I had to, you know, handle business and get back. But I acquired a lot of experiences that, you know, as a young woman of color in this corporate space, a lot of people don't get to have.
Yeah.
And so I don't take it for granted. I have enjoyed everything that I've gotten to do, good and bad, because there were highs and there were lows,
Yeah,
right?
for
Which
sure.
happens in corporate America.
For
But
sure.
and
And
the
in
thing,
anything, right? Corporate, nonprofit, wherever.
absolutely,
Yeah.
anywhere. But it's been amazing. So to clarify something that you mentioned earlier, my role actually ended up getting eliminated. And so in that process, I was at this crossroads of, do I continue to look for opportunities to stay at Coca-Cola, which I did initially. And then the other part was, you know, you started this business, you have a package. What you waiting on?
So
Just do
let's
it.
clarify that point. So you had
Mhm.
started Goodness and Grains kind of as a side hustle, so to speak,
Mhm.
right? You were working full
Yeah.
time, doing Goodness and Grains on the side, and
Yep.
then the notice came that
Mhm.
your position, as you said, was eliminated, and
Mhm.
so what you're grappling with at that moment is, am I going back in, or am I betting on myself and doing Goodness and Grains full
Yep.
time?
Yep. Yep. And so, a lot of times you have to really stop and ask yourself, um, are you willing to bet on yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to take the risk? What are your pros and cons? What's the worst that could happen? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like God gave me a little cushion via the package and
Yep.
said, I gave this to you because it literally, the name came to me in a dream. I wrote it on my whiteboard and I let it sit there for 3 weeks while I was working on my papers for school. I'm a doctoral student. And so I said, okay, well, why not? Let's see what happens. And so I was
Yes.
able to go in full throttle and just put all my efforts, all my learnings, everything that I had acquired throughout my corporate career and community service work with my sorority or anything to put it towards Goodness and Grains.
Yeah.
And that's where we are, today. Still learning, still doing, literally learning and doing. Like I learned something, I'll go do it. I'm doing something and I learn
Yes.
and just let it, just let it work the way it's supposed to work.
So
And just go.
let's pull that thread a little bit, Tennille. So
Mhm.
you talked about kind of weighing the pros and cons, right? Like
Yeah.
this calculus of deciding, am I
Yep.
going to launch a job search, right? Because at the level that you are in your career, right, a job search is going to take time, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to find a job, at your level with someone of your expertise, so on and so forth, in just a week.
Yeah.
So, deciding to do that is a full-time job in and of itself. And so there
It
was a
is.
calculus, right, that you made where you said, you know what? I feel like Goodness and Grains is a thing. I feel like this can be bigger than what it is right now. So talk us through that.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I believe in taking a break, right? So a lot of times we don't necessarily get that. When we are impacted or we leave a job, we're literally leaving a job on Friday and on Monday we're starting a new gig, right? This allowed me an opportunity to take a break from just the corporate game as a
Yeah.
whole. And it's a blessing in disguise. A lot of people may not feel that way, but with the way that I work and how hard I work, it was a welcomed moment to rest and
Mm-hmm.
focus on something that's mine
Yeah.
and be able to really put my all and my passion into something that I own versus something for somebody else. And I'm not knocking it. I still love being a corporate girly. I love all the things that come with it. But I am finding a lot of fulfillment in what I'm doing here and now in building this brand and growing this business and learning a lot along the way and having fun. I love to learn. Maybe that's why I'm in school now
Yeah.
because, most people are like, why did you even bother? I'm like,
I
listen.
want to get to that. Yep. Yep.
So yeah. Shout out to
Yes.
PB, but yeah, I just it's just one of those things. But
So it
absolutely.
so it sounds like what you're saying is there's the potential that you might go back inside at some point.
Oh yeah. So for me, for Goodness and Grains, I know that a lot of businesses, a lot of brands, they typically fail within the first 5 years, right? And especially if you are an African American in business, a lot of times the deck is not necessarily is stacked against you when it comes to trying to acquire resources, trying to secure capital, trying to secure, just the basics to really make your business grow and thrive. It's not like we have networks around us where people say, oh, you want to start a business? I'm going to sew. Here's $1,000. Here's
Right.
$5,000.
Right.
Here's some resources on this. A lot of times we have to go out and seek those resources or really leverage and tap external resources or resources of resources to be able to
Mm-hmm.
get the things that you need to get started. And so, through this journey, I've met some phenomenal women, other women of color that have bloomed and thriving businesses. And every single one of them has said, yeah, I worked my corporate job for 3 years. I worked my corporate job for another 2 years. I worked for another 5 years before I 100% went out on my own. And had things not happened the way they did with Coca-Cola, I would still be there because my plan was to work. I said, I'm going to work 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
corporate and this, and see where we land in 5 years. And then make the decision to leap. full time. But a lot of times it doesn't necessarily happen that way. And this is where I feel it was the blessing. Because like I said, I have a cushion, right? That I'm able to do what I'm doing 100% full time without the strain of, oh man, I got to get a job. Oh man, we got to do this. And you're right. The job market is already tough.
Yeah.
So when you do get to a certain level, it does take a few months before, you start getting noticed or you start being talked to by, headhunters or recruiters, at that certain level. Yeah, you can go get an entry level job pretty much anywhere. But when you're still trying to grow your career and bring in a substantial amount of income to sustain what you've already built, you got to be selective and you got to be intentional about how you go about doing those things. And that doesn't happen overnight.
Right. And so in my intro, I talked about the fact that goodness and grains is also has been also built on trying to meet a need in the community. So talk a little bit about why you felt like that was so important in forming goodness and grains.
Yes. So I have been very, very particular about my own health and wellness journey in the last, few years. I have been very open about, weight gain and, I'm 47, so I have no qualms about it. I'll be 48 this year. I'm at that age now where, as women, we start the perimenopausal symptoms and all that crazy stuff that go on with our bodies as we're changing and transitioning to the next phase. And health and wellness becomes more and more relevant especially when your bodies are starting to go through all those different changes and you can't figure out what's going on. You just don't feel like yourself. You don't feel normal. You don't feel this. And a lot of what I researched and learned is that, number one, clean eating, moving your body, exercising plays a pivotal role in how good you feel and getting through that phase, in life. And so where I live, west of Atlanta, is an area that's considered a food swamp. So a food swamp or food desert is either an area that does not have enough healthy eating options available in comparison to unhealthy eating options, or a food desert is an area where there is no accessibility, so no grocery or anything of that nature. And so where I live, as I'm going down this health journey, I'm quickly recognizing that there's not a lot of healthy eating options where I live. And I'm like, why is that? And I'm also noticing that a lot of these areas are areas that have a lower socioeconomic status, areas that are predominantly areas where there are people of color, Black and brown, and they don't have everything else. But there's a wing place, there's a fast food place, there's a McDonald's, and no shade to any of these fast food chains that are in these areas, but there's not any healthy options to combat the unhealthy options. And so in my journey, as I mentioned earlier, the name came to me literally in a dream. I wrote it down on my whiteboard and I let it just sit there. It sat there for maybe 3 weeks. And I was working on like my final exam for my core classes. And I got hungry one day. I kid you not. And so I went to order a salad from a salad shop that's about 20 to 23 miles from where I live. And had my mouth all worked up, picked out all the ingredients, knew exactly what I wanted. 45 minutes later, I get an alert from Uber Eats that said your order's been canceled. You live too far. Now, I had gotten salads from this place before, so I knew it wasn't that it was too far. I think maybe that particular driver was like, I ain't driving all the way out the way. So I'm about to cancel this order and I'll just take the L, right? But you know how you get your mouth worked up for something and you know exactly what you want to eat, and then you got to change. It was like, I was just infuriated, like, oh man, I done picked out everything I had, what I wanted for this salad. Now I can't have it because they canceled it, or I had to drive and go get it. Now when you're working, especially when you're remote, you've got to be available and on time. And by then it was kind of past the traditional lunch period of 11 to 1. So I couldn't just leave and go get a salad. I had to find something else. But in my frustration, it was in that moment, God said, that's what I want you to do with goodness and grains. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, you already cook. You love to cook. You always want something healthy. Why not you provide the service and the opportunity to people? And I was like, man, okay. So from there, it was literally off to the races.
Okay.
Recipes and combinations of different types of salads and grains came to me, and I would write them down. I would practice on them in my kitchen on myself and my husband. My husband was the guinea pig. He would, taste stuff and be like, yeah, this is good, or no, I don't like that. And he's a picky eater too. So I'm just like, okay. But coming up with those combinations, coming up with the vinaigrettes that we make to
So,
really round out the menu is kind of how it all birthed
well,
into.
well, to that point, I talked about how, and you talked about, right, like your background is CPG.
Mhm.
So, talk about, how you kind of got into menu development, how you
Yeah.
decided, like, yeah, food business is the business for me.
Yeah, so it's crazy because it wasn't necessarily planned that way. It was just, okay, I have this menu, I have these salads. I know people like salads. A
Mm.
lot of people like them, but don't necessarily want to make them, and they don't necessarily want to take the time to go and get the fresh ingredients and put the combinations together and all that stuff. So I'm like, I might have something here, and let me see what it looks like. I know from a branding standpoint, you need something that's going to stand out, something that's going to be eye catching, something that's going to be um, shelf worthy, if you will, in a way. And so I did, solicit help to help me design, what you see today from a branding standpoint. I knew the look that I wanted, and I knew the ideation of what I wanted. I knew the branding color schemes that I wanted, but I didn't necessarily know how to piece it all together. And so I had to go out and seek, expertise to
Okay.
say, help me with this. Here's my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I think I want to do. Now help me put it together so it makes sense, on paper. And so in those moments, is how we birthed the branding of Goodness and Grains. Now, taking it a step further, not just that, but then also the look, the aesthetic, the feel. Unfortunately, a lot of, Black owned businesses, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, get labeled as a Black owned business, meaning we don't take the time to put the right level of look, feel, finesse, aesthetic behind the brand. And a lot of times, a lot of consumers don't take us seriously because we don't put the effort, behind it. It looks like it was, photoshopped or thrown together. And it's so unfortunate because as a people, we're creative. We will come up with something and we will make a market out of it. And next thing you know, it was off to the races, right? But a lot of times it goes back to what I was saying earlier about resources. We don't necessarily have all the resources, but we know we want to get the product out there.
Right.
And so it you put it out there, but then it's kind of, can I cuss on here? It's like half-assed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So, and then with it being quote unquote half-assed, it doesn't hold the same merit than somebody that took the time. I knew that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
I support Black owned businesses. I've done a lot of work with Black owned businesses because I see the struggle that we go through. And this is before I became a business owner myself. But I wanted to make sure that what we put together, what we promote was something that you could see it on the shelf of a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or a Kroger or at a farmer's market or somewhere where the branding is on point. I was very, very intentional about that. One, because I also understood what I learned from being at Coca-Cola, from working at L Brands and looking at what they did at Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works. And I'm starting from ground zero. So no one knows who Goodness and Grains is or where it come from. So I knew I had to really put forth some effort to get it out there.
Yeah, I think that that's such an important point, right? Because you worked at some of the biggest brands, right? And so for sure, to your point, we have, businesses led by Black folks where they may not have access to the resources, right? Like you talked about, their, logos may not be as slick as, someone else. But part of that is, right, also access to resources is also access to knowledge, right? Because you did work with some of those big brands, right? You understand what it means to bring something to market, right? And so, part of what we have to do is, we have to get people exposure. We have to get people access beyond just dollars, right? Like some of it is just mentoring, right? Some of it is just getting people exposure to certain things. And that exposure that you had, to your earlier point, maybe all the career experiences that you've had, right, were meant to prepare you for Goodness and Grain so that you can build that brand. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't think about it when you're in it, right?
For
You don't
sure.
you don't realize it, at the time. And I remember there were jobs that I went for and the consistent messaging was, well, you just don't have enough strategy experience, Tennille. But you're great. We love you. We think you are amazing. You got all this energy with no coffee, and you're bright, you're bubbly, you're excited, and you're very collaborative. But we need somebody with this, and so it'd be one thing on the checkbox that I don't check, and I would get passed over for the job, and then I see that I'm out here building this brand, and all these things that somebody said I didn't have, some way, shape, or form is manifesting in this. Yes. So it makes me wonder, was it really that, or was it something else? Right? But you can't worry about it. You just got to keep moving forward.
Exactly. So speaking of moving forward, right? So you've launched, right? Like you've taken what was a side hustle, you're doing it full time. And one of the things that I've loved about this journey is seeing where goodness and grain shows up, right? I saw you at a department store. There was some department store event, right? And you had a pop-up going there. Yeah. And I've seen you, doing stuff in, different parks, and, you're based in Atlanta, but I saw you do a pop-up in Columbus, Ohio, right?
That's right.
I love how you are really kind of putting the pedal to the metal. So talk about how you are thinking about, those types of, I would consider them unusual, innovative ways of getting the brand out there.
Yeah. So our primary goal is exposure, and getting people is not to make it biblical, but it's like taste and see, right? Taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see that goodness and grace is good, right? So you have to, in order for people to fall in love with it, they have to try it. Yeah. So we wanted to be in places where we knew that people would want to eat healthy, that they would be advantageous to try because it may or may not be anything else out there, but to give them an opportunity to see and try it for themselves. What we have found is that when people try it, they want to buy it, and then they become customers. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, I want to place an order. I want to do a subscription order. I need 10 salads a week. I need 6 salads a week, because I can eat these while I'm on the go, or I can have these in my fridge because I work remote and there's nothing around me and I don't have time to run to go get something, right? So we looked at what opportunities could we go to and who could we partner with in order to be able to expose people to the brand. So the mall event was a friend of mine. She curates events. She actually moved on to do bigger things, but she curated events for Macy's department store at the infamous Lenox Mall here in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was a fitness event. So, my trainer, shout out to Just Work Fitness, because they also are one of our big partners. We do a lot of great, amazing work together. Him and his gym came and did a whole boot camp in the hallway of Macy's. Wow. So what you saw in the video was them doing the boot camp workout in Macy's. And myself and another vendor, we were selected to be vendors to be able to provide food, whether it was a sample or for purchase at the event. And so we were still just getting started. And so we said, you know what, we're just going to give away samples today and let people try it. And then they scan the QR code and they sign up if they want to join and everything else. And it turned out to be a really great thing. And so people saw that and said, hey, are you willing to come do this? We doing this event at this gym. And I said, oh, gyms? Anybody talking about partnering with the gyms? Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go do this event at the gym. So then we did events at one of the neighborhood parks. The HOA director had sponsored health and wellness events for her neighborhood and her community and asked us to come out. And we set up, in the park. They did yoga in the park. And so while they were doing yoga, we had our cold pressed juices and our salads and wraps ready for sale. And people they got hungry. And they wanted something healthy coming off of a really great and relaxing workout. But it also branched into other events as well. Like we went and did events at another gym here called Union Fit Hub and, Barbell Batty and just other gyms that were in the area. And it has proved to be successful because, again, it's given us exposure. People want to try it. They want to see what it is. They're like, oh, I like the branding. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I've seen you on Instagram, or I've seen this, I've seen that. And so taking those little nuggets of just giving it away in the beginning, allow people to really try to say, hey, man, you tried that salad? Or I had that steak wrap, or I had that salmon wrap, and this was great. And I really think this is good. Columbus, Ohio, I lived there for almost 20 years. Still very much a part of home for me. And we have a big support system there as well. So doing a pop-up in Columbus was like a no-brainer. It was just, how do we get everything there and get it back in order to do, what we need to do. So partnering with other folks in Columbus, like Chef Mika, who's like, hey, you can use my commercial kitchen. Let's set up shop and, do it there. Also down in Houston. So, shout out to Prairie View. Prairie View has a strong entrepreneurial arm within the university. But as a doctoral student at Prairie View, they asked if I would want to cater for my doctoral cohort as well as the executive MBA team. And so this has been the second time that we've been invited down to curate a healthy, nutrient-dense lunch for the doctoral program as well. But again, it feeds back to the whole premise of health and wellness and healthy eating. Most places when you cater, and come on, it's Texas. Everybody knows barbecue, it's, all that stuff.
Yeah, big portions.
Right. But to have a healthy alternative, is an option that they were looking for. And it was like, well, she's a student and she's an entrepreneur. Why wouldn't we support it? And the food is good. And
well, and what I love about that too, Tennille, is all of these things are about relationship too, right?
Yes.
Like these are people who you've had relationships with, right?
Absolutely.
And you have leveraged those relationships and benefit to both, right? So it's benefiting Goodness and Grains, but it's also benefiting Prairie View, and it's benefiting the gyms, and it's benefiting, so on and so forth, which I think is probably one of the, the ongoing lessons that, I've heard, as I've interviewed entrepreneurs like yourself, is anybody who is successful in this space is leveraging relationships in a meaningful way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know, being at Coke for 10 and a half years, and Coke is definitely a relationship driven company. They thrive on, connectedness and relationships and building and cultivating, those relationships. I'm a people person by nature. I don't meet a stranger, as you know.
For sure.
And so having that ability to connect with everyone at every level and any level has served me even in this space. I mentioned earlier, so that, I've worked with Black owned business and whatnot. I curated a Black business vendor fair or expo or entrepreneurial vendor fair at Coca-Cola for 6 years straight. And every year it grew. And we would invite Black owned businesses into the headquarters of Coca-Cola at no fee, at no cost to them, to showcase their business and sell whatever they want to sell, product, goods, services, including employees that work for Coca-Cola and had a business, on the side. As long as they worked it out with their leadership team, they could come and have, a table. And it was something that people really looked forward to. But it also, meeting all of these different entrepreneurs at different stages in their own, entrepreneurial journey, was amazing. And ironically, a lot of those entrepreneurs, when I stepped out on my own, reached back out to me.
Awesome.
And so it was just a full circle moment to say, hey, if you need help with anything, let me know. I got you. Or if you need this, let me know. I got you. Hey, Tennille, you need to trademark your brand. I got somebody you can talk to. Let me get you squared away with them and make sure you get that done. Right. So it's just all the things that I have needed. In some capacity, they've shown up, and it's been amazing. And it's been through the power of of your network and the relationships that we've, that I've built, whether it's friendships and, just me supporting them. Like, girl, I'm so excited for you, or dude, I'm happy for you. To now it coming back full circle. Like, hey, I remember you helped me back then with such and such. Is there anything I can do to help you? Oh, I know that person. Let me connect you with them. Let me put a word in for you, and it's not anything that I was looking for. It just came to me. Right.
Yeah.
So that's been, that's probably been one of the bigger highlights of just throughout this entire process.
I love that. Well, one of the other highlights, and I think that you're probably the first person I've interviewed who's gone through this process, and this is the process of doing an investment offering. So, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of what inspires you to do that, and how does your investment offering align with your ultimate vision for Goodness and Grains?
Yeah. So, I went to a grant writing workshop through the Pink Print. So shout out to Stormy. Stormy won the Beyonce's grant years ago, and she has this amazing community of grant writers where she helps other businesses learn how to get funding for, for grants. And in this grant writing workshop, the Honeycomb Credit Foundation, which is who we did our investment bid with, had a grant that I applied for. And in the process of applying for the grant, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we read your information. We love what you're trying to do as far as to combat food disparities and dealing with food swamp and food deserts. Would you be open to some additional funding opportunities?" And I was like, "Absolutely. What do you have in mind?" And so through this conversation, they said, "Hey, we're the Honeycomb Credit Company. This is what we do. We help small businesses like yours get funding through community, what they call community investment." So think of anybody being an investor, not just a big billionaire or a big corporation or a bank. It's your everyday person that says, "You know what? I love what this person is trying to do. I'm going to invest $100. I'm going to invest $50. I'm going to invest $1,000. And so Honeycomb helped us with our media and getting our story together and really getting our promotional materials together to help advertise who we are, what we're trying to do, how we're trying to help combat food disparities. They put the investment bid on their website and on their platform for their community as well as my network to say, "You know what? I see what Tennille and team and everybody is doing. I'm going to actually put my money behind her because I think she's onto something, or I think she's going to do, some amazing things with goodness and grace, and she just needs some financial help to get the business off the ground." And so through that, we were able to raise about $34,000 to help the business, to help the business operations continue to expand and grow. And so, it's been an amazing opportunity. I've met some amazing people. And again, these are folks that I know that are friends of mine. These are folks that I did not know from all over the United States that said, "Hey, I read your portfolio. I read what you're trying to do. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to invest." And it's been a whirlwind. So the bid just closed maybe a week or two ago.
Okay.
And so now we're in that process of, okay, now we have these funds. Let's figure out how we expand operations so that we can have a broader reach of what we're trying to do and continuing to, grow the business and grow the brand.
And so talk about what was the goal of the investment? What were you trying to expand within the business or start within the business that led you to do that?
Yeah, so the minimum raise was $25,000. So as long as we hit the minimum, we would be allocated the funds. The goal was to secure a food truck, but obviously food trucks cost a lot of money, and way, way more than $34,000. And that's okay. That's okay. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate goal was to expand operations. So we work out of a shared commercial kitchen. Ideally, I would want my own private commercial kitchen so that we could continue to generate the revenue to then eventually get the food truck or the food trailer, and also continue to have these opportunities to create these experiences where we can educate and teach the community on the goals and the values of healthy eating, and continue to do the pop-ups that we have been doing. So we were able to purchase a mobile salad bar, so that it's basically a salad bar on wheels.
Really?
So that we can take it. Yeah, so we can take it. It's actually, I posted it up. It's actually sitting behind my office right now. To be able to go to different trade shows and vendor shows to continue to get exposure and let people know who we are, that we're available. Yes, we cater. Yes, we do meal prep. Yes, we have, all these things to gradually at some point get a brick and mortar where we can put ourselves right in those communities that are deemed a food swamp or food desert, so that people have accessibility to, healthy eating. But in the meantime, we're still doing delivery, delivery only, and getting the word out through that. So it's again, it's a process.
Absolutely.
Learning and growing as I go to, make these things happen. But enjoying the ride, partnering with farmers markets and partnering with local gyms and other health institutions and, senior citizens homes, because believe it or not, they don't necessarily get access to healthy eating either. And they need it just as much as anybody else does.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So, Tennille, when you think about going through that process of, doing an investment offering, and now that you have that success under your belt, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are considering that, who are trying to scale their business as well?
I would definitely say have your ducks in a row. So do all the necessary things. Have a business plan. Have a pitch deck. Have your stuff established with your state and federal level, like your EIN and your Dun and Bradstreet's number and all the different things that you need to put in place. If you're a minority female business, registering with the Minority Business Council so that you can be certified as a minority business owner. That's our next step, right? And making sure that you have all those what I call those foundational layers, in place. A lot of times we get excited about a business and we just go out and we start doing. And we did not think to put the provisions in place, having your bank accounts in order, having your tax and stuff in order. Like you really got to have all that in place because, for example, for us, Honeycomb vetted all of that out before they even said, yep, we can put you on our platform. They had to make sure that we had all our ducks in a row because they're also government and managed by the SEC. And it was like, listen, we're not going to jail for you or nobody else. So we need to make sure that all your stuff is in place before we will open you up to receive investments from, not just our community, but your community, as well. And so I would tell anybody, if you're truly serious about starting a business, whether it's a side hustle or it's just a way to make extra money, to supplement things that you may have going on, do the due diligence to put your foundation in place and have it in order. It will serve you later on down the line when it's time to do your taxes and it's time to get all your write-offs and stuff. Because entrepreneurs, you can get a lot of stuff written off with a good tax preparer. But you got to have all your stuff in place. Yeah. You can't just be willy-nilly like, oh, no, I need to do this and I don't have that. No, get it in order and go slow to go fast. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned that we started November 2023. For at least a month and a half, I wrote everything down of my thoughts. Anytime something came to me, I was writing it down. Before I did anything in the system or go create this brand, go do these branding colors, I have a notebook where I write down everything. I keep it beside my bed because a lot of times things come to me in my sleep. Or if I wake up in the middle of the night, my brain is always going anyway. And I need to write it down so I don't forget it. I would always jot it down, and I would come back and I would revisit it. Having those things really proved to be beneficial. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, a lot of people ask me when they see what we've done, they'll say, well, do you have a business plan? I'm like, yes. And I almost get offended. So I'm like, how would I? But I've learned that a lot of times, especially again with us, and it's no knock on us, it's just that it's what you only know what you know. Yeah. A lot of times they don't think to put a business plan together or seek out help to get a business plan put together, to get a 5-year trajectory, whether it's a P&L or at least an estimate of what you think it's going to cost you to run, your business. You need to put those things in place as you're moving forward and getting things started. Yeah.
So, Tennille, one of the things that, we like to talk about here on She Ventures Out is mindsets, right? The types of mindsets that we have to be successful. And sometimes the mindsets that we need to shift in order to be successful. So when you think about kind of your corporate experience going into, being an entrepreneur, were there any mindsets that you had to unlearn or adapt in order to thrive as an entrepreneur?
Yes. I had to learn how to be open. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how to not put myself in a box. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, when you work in a corporate environment, in a culture, regardless of whatever company, there are certain rules and provisions that you have to adhere to. There's red tape, there's layers, approvals, so-and-so got to sign off on it, so-and-so got to do this. And being an entrepreneur was like, well, the buck stops with me. I can say yes or no, like on stuff. And I can think outside the box and I can go make some things happen. And I can literally pivot in 24 hours and say, well, I was going to do that, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to go over here and do this, as well. And being open like that, you have to, it allows you to be creative. And that creativity is where a lot of those aha moments, come into play. Not just being open, but also establishing boundaries. Because when people see that you're doing something special or doing something different, folks may want to get on the bandwagon with you, not fully understanding what you're trying to do. You got to know, who's really for you and who's not. Yeah. You got to understand, you got to protect your brand. You got to protect your business because people will come out of nowhere and say, hey, I want to help you, and you really think it's genuine, but in actuality, it probably isn't. So you have to have discernment to know, who's truly for you and who's not. You also have to be mindful that people are going to talk one way or the other. You're going to have people that are going to hate on you, and you're going to have people that's going to cheer you on.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that's going to sit in the sidelines and never say one thing to you, never like a comment, a page, a video, nothing.
Yeah.
But they will have plenty to say to other people.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with it. You just have to press forward and continue to look and stay forward. You can't look sideways. You can't look behind you. You got to continuously press
And
forward.
how do you do that, right? Like if you had to give advice to someone around how do you quiet the noise around you? How do you not, kind of take in all that's happening that, may not be serving what you're trying to do, right? Like what is your strategy for that?
One is staying focused on the goal. So writing out the goals, working the plan, planning the work so you work the plan, right? So not just being what I call the shiny carrot syndrome, where it's like, oh, this is great. Let's go do this over here. Oh, no, I know this one's shinier. Let's go do this one over here. And then you're all over the place, right? Really being intentional and being focused on the goal and focused on what it is that you're trying to work towards and silencing the noise. I'm on social media a lot, but I am not necessarily all up in what everybody else is doing. I stay focused on what am I trying to achieve for the month of January? What am I trying to achieve for the next 90 days? What am I trying to achieve for the first 6 months? If it's not in sync with any of those things that I have written down for myself, then I can't be worried about it.
Gotcha.
I have to, and you have to know what to receive in and what not. A lot of times I may or may not have a lot of conversation on the phone with folks because if I know they talking about nothing, that's distracting me from other stuff that I got to do here. I'm really good at compartmentalizing things. I have school, I have work, I have goodness and grains, right now I have school and I have goodness and grains, and of course my family time and those that I need to help that I have offered to help in some shape, way, or capacity. Yeah. If it doesn't fall in sync with any of things, or my own mental health and wellness, so my times for self-reflection and having some downtime for myself, I don't really give it a whole lot of focal point or attention because those become distractors. And when you get distracted, it takes you off your goal and takes you off pace. And so you have to know when things are coming at you that's meant to distract you and throw you off your game. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be a spouse, it could be people, it could be all types of things. You have to know and learn discernment to know, whether or not is this going to serve me or is this going to hinder me?
Yeah.
If it's going to hinder me, I can't deal with you right now.
Yeah.
I'm on a goal. I'm on a focus. Well, if it's going to serve me, yes.
Yes. Well, and, to your point, I think a lot of times, and, my last guest was talking about this, right? Like people think that, because you're an entrepreneur, right, you have all the time in the world. And when in actuality, right, like you probably working harder than you've ever had to work in your...
Listen, Linda, listen, Linda. I told somebody this, maybe a good friend of mine, she owns Mode X Studios out here in Buckhead. I said, I feel that I am more busy now than I was when I worked full-time in corporate America, full-time doctoral student, and have this business. I still can't wrap my mind around how am I more busy now when I control my schedule versus before. Like it's crazy to me, but it's good. It don't feel like I'm busy, but I am, busy. But yeah, you don't have time. And I'm not sure why people feel like they're like, oh, she entrepreneur, she got time. No, I don't. I got stuff to do. I got to go, either we got to make food, prepare food, or I got to go do an event, or I'm going to meet a potential new customer or new client or corporate partner, or I'm following up on emails, or I'm doing administrative work. And I still got to figure out some time in there to sleep and eat and take me a nap. I got to get a nap
and
in
be
somewhere.
A wife.
Right.
Exactly.
And be a wife.
Exactly.
And be a student. Yes. And get my homework done. Let me tell you something. This doctoral journey, listen, it ain't for the weak. If y'all ever considering going to get it, I commend you. And I'm standing in solidarity with you. But it is not for the weak. It is no joke. And you got to put as much time and effort and dedication into that as you do with everything else. To me, that's like a whole nother job, right?
Yeah.
But I don't understand why people feel that you got time. You don't have time.
Well, yeah, you don't. It's really true. But there's something, right? And I see this because every time you talk about this grueling doctoral journey, and like you light up, right?
I
Like
do.
ain't nobody lighting up about stuff that's grueling, right? But
No.
it's something about doing something that you are passionate about,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
something about stepping into your purpose, right?
Yeah.
And so even though you are stepping into your purpose, right, with these two massive things, right, a doctoral journey and launching a successful business, right, you are on the path of purpose, and that probably, right, lightens the load in some way, right? Like it doesn't make it feel as heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel as heavy. I mean, I've had folks say, I don't even understand how you do what you do. I don't even get it. Where do you find the time? Where do you do this? And honestly, I don't know. I feel like there is a energy and synergy that comes with stuff that I even sit back and be like, how did I get all that done today? And don't get me wrong, sometimes I go to bed really, really late,
Yeah.
or I get up really early
Mm-hmm.
and get started before the day gets busy with people calling and everything else. But um, when you get excited about it, it really doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel forced. I've always been a lover of learning. And honestly, I feel like a, 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 I'm fulfilling a dream that I've always wanted. So I've always wanted to attend an HBCU,
Okay.
right? But my dad, in his wonderful wisdom, didn't feel that I needed to go to an HBCU, so he was dead set against it. Like, now, mind you, I told you I'm 47, so I'm going back some years. But I thought that I was going to be on the campus of Grambling State University, being a majorette, like out there on the football field, just doing my thing, like everybody else. That was my dream,
Right.
right? But my dad was like, hell to the no. You're not going to no Grambling nothing. You can't even go to Grand Valley State down in Michigan, which is where I'm from, at all, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to go to an HBCU like I wanted to. Still, went to college, got my degrees, went on, got my master's degrees and everything else. And honestly, during COVID, I thought more and more about a doctoral journey. And so I actually started at another school online because, it was COVID and all this stuff was going on. And I learned, so let me preface my doctorate journey is a doctorate of business administration, also known as a DBA.
Mm-hmm.
So similar to a PhD, I just feel DBA is more of solving an actual real world problem.
Yep.
PhD is more, theoretical.
Yep.
And for folks that may want to go out and teach one day, I don't necessarily want to teach. I still want to, just do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I learned as I was starting my doctoral journey at another university that Prairie View A&M University, an HBCU in Prairie View, Texas, was starting a DBA program. And I reached out and said, I have always wanted to attend an HBCU. I see you have a DBA program. I'm specifically looking for a DBA, not PhD. And, can I inquire more information? I had just missed the window to enroll.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, well, if you really want to do it, you got to wait a year because we're not going to take another class for another year. I said, okay, that's cool. I'll wait. He said, you're really waiting? I said, I'll wait. I'll take a year off. I'll wait. So I stopped classes at the other university. And I sat out a year and I waited and I stayed in contact. I, kind of lightweight stalked them a little bit, like on LinkedIn and all these different things. And when the next enrollment period came around, I applied and interviewed and went through the process, got my respective letters of recommendation, and I got in. And I was so excited because I was like, I finally get to go to an HBCU. I finally get to be part of the HBCU family. I'm so excited about this. I don't know what to do with myself. And so it's been a lot of work, but don't get me wrong. It's been a lot of work. But having that sense of pride at an HBCU and having just even the conversations that we talk about when we're in class, right? Problems and situations that plague, the African-American community. It's just a whole different vibe. And so I don't take it, I don't take any of it for granted. So I live in Atlanta, but I have to go to class once a month. So I fly to Houston once a month.
Yeah.
For in-person, what we call in-person residency. So I spend a whole weekend in the classroom from Friday to Saturday. And I love every moment of it, from the work to the class projects, all the stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some stuff literally will just gild my goat, but I think it's all part of the journey. And when it's all said and done, it will be, prayerfully in another year and a half, you will refer to me as Dr. Tennille Cooley.
I cannot wait.
And whatnot. And we're going to have a big old party and a celebration and something. We might need to be on somebody's island on the beach or something to celebrate.
Book it.
Right. All the festivities.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
okay. So Tennille, before we get you out of here, we want to do something that we have started doing in season 2, and it's a 20 questions version of She Ventures Out.
Okay.
So they should be rapid fire.
Little
fun. So question number 1, what's your vibe? Climbing mountains, sailing oceans, or blasting off to space?
Sailing oceans.
Okay. Have you ever said yes to something that scared the heck out of you?
Absolutely.
How do you get in the zone? Complete silence or music on full blast?
Music on full blast.
Okay. Who is the basketball GOAT?
Michael Jordan.
Period.
Right. And for y'all LeBron fans, because don't come at me. I'm listening. Michael Jordan. Okay. Thank you.
You see how they get us Michael Jordan fans riled up.
And they'll come at me. It's Michael Jordan, and I have a spouse that'll back me up. So y'all leave me alone. Don't come at me talking about LeBron. I love LeBron. I think LeBron's amazing.
Exactly. Okay, because on She Ventures Out, we love LeBron. Yes, we do. But yeah,
Jordan is daddy. LeBron is the son. Or him and Kobe are brothers, and they can fight it out. But Jordan is Papa. Okay. Thank you.
I love it. Okay. Yeah. So, would you rather be front row at the Renaissance tour, be listening to Cowboy Carter over dinner, or score tickets to a big event with Oprah?
Oh, Jesus. Do I get to be with Oprah?
Let's see. It's her event. I don't think you sitting side by side with her though.
Oh, okay.
But you're not sitting side by side with. Well, I think Beyonce is side by side with you at the Cowboy Carter dinner.
Okay, well we can do that. We can do
okay. So it's Cowboy Carter dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your dream project: write a best-selling book, host your own talk show, or launch the next big thing.
Ooh. I would say launch the next big thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Coffee, tea, or something a little stronger to keep life moving?
Coffee with Baileys.
Okay. Who would play you in the Netflix series about your life?
Ooh. Who would play me?
Yes, ma'am.
Angelina Jolie or Taraji.
Okay.
Angelina Jolie is a fellow Gemini like me.
Okay.
And Taraji just got fired that I just love.
I can see Taraji. I would have never thought Angelina. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Adventure mode. Plan it all out or just wing it and see what happens?
Plan it all out.
Okay. That's the project manager.
That's the project manager. Yes.
Okay, pick your superpower. Endless energy, endless ideas, or endless time?
Endless energy.
What is scarier? Giving a big speech to a packed crowd or skydiving at 10,000 feet?
Skydiving at 10,000 feet.
Facts. What's your go-to book to recommend when somebody asks you for a life-changing book?
Jesus CEO.
Okay. Would you rather rewind time to fix a mistake or fast forward to see how it all works out?
Fast forward to see how it all works out.
Okay. Who is in your earbuds if you need a pick-me-up?
It could be music. It could be anything else.
Yep, whatever.
Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. Who would be in my earbuds? Because I immediately am thinking music, but then I think about like podcasts and stuff that I would listen to.
Okay.
or audiobooks that I
Yep.
listen to. There is a book that actually was written by 50 Cent called The 50th Power.
Okay.
hmm
Interesting. Are you a sunrise person or a night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Would you rather mentor someone who reminds you of yourself or get mentored by someone you admire?
I'd rather mentor someone.
Okay.
Mhm.
Confidence, something you're born with or something you build?
Something you build.
Do you believe in the saying everything happens for a reason?
Yes.
If you could only pick one for the rest of your life, sneakers, stilettos, slippers.
Ooh. Sneakers.
Okay.
My
And
knees ain't built like they used to, child. I can't walk in
listen,
stilettos like I used to. Now I can still be
listen.
cute in them, but walking,
But for the
strutting.
rest of life, listen, I'm with you on that one.
Mm-mm.
So, what word best describes success for you? Freedom, fulfillment, or joy?
Fulfillment.
Okay. Tennille, thank you for being on the show. How can people find you and Goodness and Grains if they want to connect?
Yes, so you can follow us on Instagram with @goodnessandgrains. You can also check out our website at www.goodnessandgrains.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, assuming it's going to still be around. 1 minute is up, 1 minute is down. Eat on how it goes or whatnot. As well as Facebook, or you can just pick up the phone and give us a call or email me at info@goodnessandgrains.com.
All right, y'all. Y'all have heard all the ways. Make sure you connect with them. As always, thank you for listening. You can always follow She Ventures Out on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, keep venturing out. Let us know what you want to see in the future, and we'll see you soon.
Boxland Media. Think big.